Hi, I'm Liam Dann, New Zealand Herald Business Editor at Large, and welcome to this episode of Money Talks. This is a podcast about money, but we're not going to tell you how to get rich, and we're not going to try and pick the next interest rate move. In this series, I'll be talking to interesting New Zealanders about how money has shaped their lives and what they've learned over the years. For today's podcast, I'm joined by Briscoes owner and managing director, Rod Duke. Kia ora, Rod. Welcome to Money Talks.
Afternoon.
Before we jump into some of the Money Talks questions, I was actually looking right back. I think I first interviewed you in so long ago, I couldn't find it on the internet. So about 23 years ago, I reckon, I went to the Morningside place and you were still based there.
Yeah.
And, you know, you talked up the game plan for Briscoes. You'd had it a while. But I was just thinking, when you look back at what's happened to retail in those 23 years with the internet and everything, it's almost like it's incredible, isn't it? The odds were stacked against you to come this far. Did you feel like that? Or?
No, we were always pretty confident.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, back in those days, we were 12 stores, 20 million revenue, in the beginning losing a couple of million a year, and there were some big, powerful groups out there at that time.
Yeah, I mean, the warehouse was at the top of its game at that point. Yeah. But you've somehow negotiated your way through all that online retailing to find a sort of like a place in the hearts of New Zealanders for real stores, I guess.
Yeah, we did.
Well, look, I'll talk a bit more about that side of the business and what you do there, but I just want to go right back because Money Talks is about sort of your relationship with money, and just wondering what your first memories of holding money in your hand would have been.
My first memories are still very vivid in my mind. I guess about 10 or 12 years old. My father was a bookmaker at the horse racing in Adelaide. And as is typical, a bookmaker fields at the races on Saturday. And then when he wakes up Sunday morning, he gets his betting bags, empties all the money, hopefully there's a lot, empties the money on the floor and says to the kids, "You better count it."
Wow.
I want the notes sorted this way, and there's a rubber band that you put around them. And all the silver you sort this way, and then if you sort it, then I'll come down and I'll count it out and put it away. And so there you are, and I'll come back in an hour or two, kids.
Yeah. So it's all cash in those days. It must have been a pretty decent whack of piles of money you're dealing with.
There was some substantial amounts of money.
Yeah.
Fortunately for Dad, most times there was a fair bit of money there.
Yeah.
But sometimes there was a little less. And
sometimes you lose, I guess, when you're the bookmaker.
There was a couple of gold watches and some chains.
Yeah. Do you think that sort of influenced your understanding of money and your sense of the value of it and all that sort of stuff?
Well, look, probably. But my earliest memories of getting into the business was more about I was just fascinated by the proposition of buying something and then reselling it for more than I paid for it.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
They were my biggest memories.
Yeah. I mean, did you actually get pocket money for helping your dad out there? Or like all that money, but so you got a bit of pocket money?
Yeah, we needed to work for it, like.
Yeah, and when you were a kid, were the things that you were, you wanted the money for? Was it, saving up for things? Or
it was all about the accumulation of money.
Right. Yeah.
And $2 a week.
Yep.
You don't get a lot after a year.
Yeah.
And you wash a lot of cars.
Yep. Yeah.
But I guess. That was all part of growing up back in those days. Yeah.
So it wasn't like you were specifically saving for things. You actually could see the value of accumulating early on. Because I guess a lot of, some kids some people never see that in their whole life, right? So, what about at school? Did you see school as a path to sort of more money, or were you academically inclined?
No, I was a very unusual adolescent, not particularly keen on school, except for the sporting part of it.
Yeah.
But no, for me it was all about, preparing myself for the workforce and just dying to get into a shop and learn how to approach and sell to people, how to buy something for an amount of money and then sell it for a little more.
Yeah.
It was all about getting experience for me.
Yeah, so you wanted to do it. You didn't sort of think, I want to go off and do a commerce degree or an accounting degree or anything like that. No.
No.
What was the sport that you were keen on?
Aussie rules.
Oh yeah. Aussie rules and cricket, and that you weren't bound for a career in either of those.
No, regrettably.
Yeah. So were you sort of basically keen to get out of school as soon as you could? Did you leave early, or when did you?
No, I left at the prescribed time.
Yeah.
So I finished a year of schooling. I turned 16 very quickly thereafter.
Yep.
My birthday's in January, and I finished then, and had my first job before the end of January of that same year.
Right. Yeah. So what was your first job?
Working in a shoe shop,
Yep.
selling shoes.
Yep. And so it was sales. Sales was what you were keen on, right?
It's a natural starting point.
Yeah.
So if you've got a retail career and you're a 16-year-old,
Yep.
you never get into buying at that particular stage.
Right. Yeah.
If you're clever and you can count properly, then you might get into a buying office.
Yeah.
Where you can do ledgers and estimates of sales and budgets and those sorts of things. But that wasn't me. I had to start at the very bottom of that ladder.
And do you think you had a natural aptitude for sales? I mean, is it something you think you learn, or are you born with it? Because some people have an ability to sell, and some people sort of shy away from it, find too shy or something.
Yeah, I've always been very, very gregarious. So I relate, I think, pretty well to people. I had no trouble selling to customers, and I felt very, very comfortable about it.
Yeah. I mean, in those days, I guess like shoe shops, people are coming for the shoes, so it's more straightforward. But did you get in? You went through other sales jobs where you had to push a bit harder and twist people's arms and things like that.
Yeah. I went from a 16-year-old selling shoes through to store management and through to major appliances. At 19 or 18 or 19, I was selling major appliances, that is televisions, refrigerators. And so you're selling to very, very similar people.
Yeah.
You're just selling them a bigger package.
Yeah. I sort of asked this question sometimes later on, but, it obviously is about acquiring money, but at some point, is it a goal, some sort of payoff to making the sale? It's sort of like sports or something. Do you sort of get a high from the selling?
I think for me, I set a lot of targets for myself. And so my target at the shoe shop was to sell more shoes and more accessories. You sell more shoelaces.
Right,
shoe polish every time you sell a shoe. Not just about selling the shoes.
Yeah. Those little extras,
you can get another 10%.
Yeah.
If, in fact, you sell the dream of keeping the shoes clean and tidy. And in major appliances, it was all about selling extras, antennas, service contracts, all those sorts of things.
Yeah, and I'm jumping around a bit, but obviously one of the successes of Briscoes is finding that point where people, that there's a point that people really relate to that store for the right quality goods at the right price, all that sort of stuff. Do you feel like you sort of learned that on the job in those early years?
When I first came to New Zealand and purchased Briscoes, we had to establish very, very quickly what segment of the market we want to sit in, because the segment that we're in was unsustainable.
Yeah.
There were too many incumbents. They were very, very good. They were very, very big, and they were very, very powerful. And so we had to find a niche in that landscape, and that landscape was $2 shops all the way through to department stores.
Yeah.
We had to find a piece of that landscape that we thought we could settle in, we could own, and we could easily defend.
Yeah.
Because once you become successful, the barriers to entry are not high.
Yeah.
And so you have to find a way of defending that piece of real estate.
Just recapping that purchase of Briscoes, you were an Australian-based executive at that point, right?
Yes.
And you'd been brought in basically to fix up Briscoes for the Dutch owners or something?
Yes, and to sell it.
Yeah. So could you tell us a bit about how that process worked and what made you decide, hang on, I think I want to own this rather than do it for someone else?
Yeah, I arrived in New Zealand in September 1988. And one of the very, very first things that we did we sat down with the primary group of management then, which was about a dozen people. We sat down with them and just established what segment of the market we wanted to establish ourselves in. And that particular segment was high quality product, but a real good price. No one occupied that space. There was high quality product, but quite expensive. There was very, 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 very cheap, poor quality stuff and real cheap, but not a lot in between. So that was the space that we wanted to occupy. And so we set about doing that. So we set about acquiring brands, brand name merchandise, and because we weren't in shopping malls, we had to promote it very, very heavily, because back in those days, people in New Zealand, or customers in New Zealand, had almost forgotten about us.
Yeah.
We've been in business since 1860, but they've forgotten about us.
Yeah.
There were a lot more important retailers doing a lot of business at that point. So that was our task.
Did you have a marketing background? Because there was some kind of there's the sort of iconic Briscoes lady, it's Tammy, is that right? Yeah. I mean, can you tell me a bit about how she got involved and how you got that sort of that brand recognition going?
For the first 3 or 4 months, from that September 1988 right through to Christmas, we'd done loud, in-your-face, high discount, get into the store, ads. That was never going to last forever. And we needed a face, an iconic face that I could use for a very long time, that projected and showed folks the value of my brand. We did a whole lot of interviews, and Tammy came through very, very strong. We tested her in the market. That also came through very, very strong. And here we are.
So it was a good call hiring her, because she's really resonated with the New Zealand public, right?
Yeah, and she's lasted a very, very, very long time. Yeah. And she's been an important part of our team.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot going on there with creating a brand and marketing and all that sort of stuff. Is there a leap that you made from, you're working your way from the shoe sales and you're doing appliances, but what was the leap that you made to get into more of a, as you say, like doing the buying as well as the selling and more of an executive type role? Yeah,
well, I had a number of those in Australia before I came to New Zealand.
Yeah.
So in Australia, the last job I had over there was the managing director of Norman Ross, which was the forerunner of Harvey Norman. And that was more a fix and get back on its feet job. Immediately prior to that, I was with a department store chain in Sydney. So my background in retail had been all the way from a 16-year-old in a shoe shop all the way through to a senior merchandise director role inside retail, and all the time being in retail. So I think I'd really passed or served as at each of those touch points all the way through. So by the time I came to New Zealand, I was already familiar with what might be required to fix an organisation. Didn't have that many problems, but to fix it. So I'd already pretty well done it in Australia, which was quite a different market to New Zealand at that point.
Yeah, sure.
And so the sorts of things that I did there turned out to work pretty well here in this country.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm getting at, though, is like you didn't need to go back and do an MBA or anything like any of this executive accounting stuff. You must have kept learning all the way through, right? Just learning based on solving problems as you went kind of thing, was it?
Yeah. Look, you learn a lot in each of the roles that you fulfill. In the early roles, you're learning about people and what it takes to sell. In the middle roles, you're learning about the value of inventory, the value of promotions, what turns people on, what makes people get out of their lounge chair and run to your store and buy something. What did that take?
Yeah.
And it's not just price. The price is a serious motivator, but it's not just price. And so you're learning all the way through to today. You're learning about the tax implications, the depreciation, the value of owning stores rather than renting them, or renting them at the right price. So you're learning,
because there's property management, all sorts of things going on, right?
Yes, it's not just about making sales. You've got to make sales. You've got to make margin. It's all about going to factories all over the world and buying at the right price.
Yeah.
If you buy at the right price in the very, very beginning, it's very, very hard to sell at the right price if you have not bought at the right price.
Yeah. And what about Rebel Sport? Where did that idea come from? Obviously, that's found a niche as well. That's really, stuck in the retail landscape of New Zealand.
Yeah, I'd been encouraged by a banker back in about 1994, 95, because we weren't borrowing any money, to try and borrow some money. So it appeared to me that perhaps I should look at establishing or purchasing another business so I could bolt it onto the business I had. I was a tennis player back in those days.
Yeah.
And my dear friend, who I'd just finished playing tennis with, I said to him, Stewie, I need to buy a racket and some shoes and pants and what have you. Where do I go? He said, well, you're going to have to go to about 6 or 7 stores.
Right.
Because not everybody sold. Some sold rackets and some sold shorts and some sold shoes. So I said to him, how about if I set up a sporting goods store that sold everything, every brand, all those things in the one store? How would that go? And he said to me, I think it'd go pretty good.
Yeah.
And so that's where the dream of Rebel started. We found a brand name that we liked. We found some people in Australia who could assist us putting it together, which we did. And we opened our first store in September 1996. And the rest is history.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a big step to take, but then at the same token, you've talked about you've never got into trouble over expanding, which can be a risk when you have some success, right? You see businesses do that all the time, and they take on too much debt, and then you have a downturn like we've got now, and you're exposed on cash flow and whatnot. Do you sort of see yourself as a risk averse on debt?
Clearly, yes.
Yeah, relative to other.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't see that we've ever taken, real risks, serious risks during the GFC 2008. We slowed expansion down. So instead, what we did, we went behind the business and put in a multi-million-dollar SAP financial and merchandise system.
Right.
And that took us 2 years to get that up. So that by the time we'd come out of GFC,
yeah.
I had this fully established. And so we now knew all about our business, down to line item, to every dollar that we spent. We spent $4 or $5 million putting it up. And suddenly we came out of GFC and we were running even faster and knowing more about our business because we'd made this significant investment over this very, very lean period of the GFC.
And that's kind of seeing the counter-cyclical, isn't it? Being able to time it.
And quite frankly, that's what we're doing exactly now.
Yeah.
We've just committed to a $100 million brand new DC facility, which we're doing now as we speak. We're on that project.
Yeah. Wanted to ask you a little bit about how you feel, Officer of New Zealand Order of Merit. I guess you would say at that point you're a New Zealander, but you're also an Australian, and I wondered how you feel about New Zealand and the comparisons doing business. And, we tend to be a bit down on ourselves, especially at the moment, looking across the Tasman, and I wondered how you felt about that New Zealand sort of business world generally.
Look, I came over here in 1988 having spent my entire working life in Australia. When I arrived in this country, there were a lot of things that we did in Australia that we didn't do in this country. And a lot of the things that got Briscoes up and running very, 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 very quickly. For example, Sunday trading.
Yeah.
Sunday trading was illegal in this country. So we did some homework, found out how illegal it is, how we're going to get caught and fined if we were to be, who were the victims, did the general public really want it? Well, they did, and we did it, albeit illegally, but we were writing a month's turnover in a day.
Wow, yeah.
And we did it for 6 weeks on our own before the government made it legal.
And then the law changes and you're up and running already, so that's...
I'm up and running.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think there's much of a character difference doing business? Like New Zealand, is that different to Australians? I mean, Australia was more advanced in the retail and probably up with some more of the American innovations and things when you arrived, right? But
yeah, well, Australia was certainly more... When I came to New Zealand, I can best characterise it as being doing business perhaps a decade before. The sorts of things that we used to do in Sydney were still being done here. Things like we were still taking cheques.
Yeah.
Who takes cheques? But they were still doing it here, so we had to do it. And a lot of the innovative things that we did through the media in Australia were not being done here. So we introduced all those very, 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 very quickly because that was my background. That's all I knew. And as a consequence, success moved very, very quickly.
Yeah. Got a few quick fire questions that we run through just off the top of your head. So one of them is, what would you say the poorest you've ever been is?
Oh, gee, I guess when I first started work at 16 years old,
yeah.
I made the decision to go out and get a flat with 3 mates.
Were your parents happy about that? Well, in those days, maybe that was it.
Well, they probably weren't happy, but at the end of the day, look, I just craved for independence, and so I did. And I tell you, back in those days, I don't know what I was earning, $65 a week, and there was not a lot left over.
So you had to sell.
I had to sell. I had to sell quickly and well.
Yeah. Do you remember a point in those early days where you suddenly realised you did have a few dollars in your pocket, that you felt like you were getting on top of it? And if so, what sort of did you splash out on and those sort of things? Yeah,
I have worked at Briscoes with a colleague, and he was there 10 years before I was, and he was the CFO, and he's just recently retired. And I remember one day having been at Briscoes probably for 7 or 8 years, and I said to him, I think we've made a fair bit of money, you know? And he said, yeah. He said, look, you'll be a millionaire now. I said, is that right? There was never a goal. It was never something that you ever think of.
Yeah.
And I said to you a little earlier, I'm all about setting targets.
Yeah.
My targets were to have more stores, to have a higher volume, to have more profitable stores. So it was those sorts of things.
Yeah.
It was never about, for me, it's not who's got the most toys, who's got the most money.
Yeah, a number in the bank account. I mean, I guess there's once you go into business like that, you're constantly chasing the best business deal, the best structure you can arrange, all that sort of stuff, just doing business.
Yeah, there is that, but there's also the fear of bankruptcy.
Right, yeah. Yeah, you've got a lot of people who work for you and, you're responsible for a lot of people.
Well, there's that as well, I can remember early when I did purchase the business, I trotted along to a lot of banks, and the final one that agreed to give me trading finance made me sign a personal guarantee for $35 million.
Wow, yeah. It wasn't easy getting loans in those days either, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Especially in this country.
It wasn't. But they did it.
Yeah.
So I'm a 38-year-old, got
a plan?
I got a plan.
Yeah.
And I got a $38 million overdraft.
Wow, yeah. So
you don't survive unless you succeed.
Yeah, and I guess that that sort of instills a bit of fear of failure. When you've got an overdraft that size, or
sometimes some people sit down and then success actually drives them on.
Yeah,
there's other people that the fear of failure drives them on.
Yeah, but something's kept you going because you could have sold out 10, 20 years ago or whatever, and probably had a house and a batch, and so something you must love doing business.
I can't begin to imagine what I would do if I didn't have the responsibility of a business that I basically gave birth to.
Yeah. And so I guess that's a sort of a satisfaction type thing. Are there other hobbies that you have?
Look, I like playing golf.
Yep.
I like running around the world, touring around the world.
Yep.
With my beautiful wife and my good mates.
Yep.
I like nice wine. I like
socialising. All the things. Yeah. What about if I was to ask, what would you say would be the most indulgent purchase you'd ever made?
Outside of a house and a car, you mean? Outside?
Yeah, something that you splashed out on yourself for.
Oh, myself? Don't know. Probably not very much. Oh, I bought myself 3 new suits when I was away.
Right.
4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't spend a lot of money on myself. I love buying $1,000 bottle of wine for a bunch of mates when we're overseas.
So you can splash out when you for the experiences.
Yeah.
Well, that's something in itself, isn't it? The ability to do that.
I love it.
Making occasions, memories, that sort of thing. You probably aren't in charge of this, but we've been asking because our Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, was asked on the campaign trail how much he spent on groceries during a week, and he said $60 because he was talking about his coffee and whatnot in his flat in Wellington, I think. But do you have any budget for the grocery shopping? Are you in charge of any of that? Or
No.
Trust your wife?
Yeah. Not my department.
Fair enough. We often ask, there was a big lotto draw recently. Do you still buy lotto tickets?
No.
Do you ever? Did you ever?
I have probably bought 6 in my entire life.
Yeah.
The odds are too great.
Yeah. What about, did you, with your, the upbringing with your dad, did you get a bug for betting on the horses or anything like that?
Yeah, I do a bit of that.
Yeah.
I do a bit of that.
Yeah. Is that,
Oh, that's one thing I have bought. I bought racehorses.
I suppose that's a hobby.
Yeah, that's a hobby, yeah.
It's an expensive hobby, but
it can be.
Yeah.
It can be, but it can be a lot of fun as well.
Yeah. And it can actually be a good investment sometimes too, right? So it's not totally, not often.
Not often. No.
Oh, well, that's an exciting thing to be involved with. So you can be betting on a horse that you've actually got a real stake in, right?
Yeah, well, not so long ago we ran second in the Melbourne Cup.
Wow, yeah.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, that's
That's a big thrill.
Yeah, that's something that would, when you think back to your dad being a bookie, he must have been be quite impressed with that. We've sort of touched on, so making money important to you, or is it a byproduct of success? It sounds like it primarily is a byproduct of success.
Look, I think it is a byproduct, but for me, it's not a real motivator though. Yeah, making money for the business, so I can support the 2,000 families who work in the business.
Yeah.
Now that's a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And COVID recently, with the lockdowns, well, that tested us enormously. But that was a lot of fun to get through that, survive that, come out a very, very much stronger business.
Yeah.
That was a bit of fun looking back on it. It was a lot of fun then, but it's a lot of fun looking back on it. Yeah,
I won't go massively into the business side of things right now, but you feel comfortable that you're doing all right. There's a lot of gloom out there in the economy, and we've seen, Smith & Co.'s and sort of a lot of retailers talking about how rough it is. Is it?
It is.
Do you feel you've got a sort of a very robust structure there to get through this sort of cycle?
Look, we're in the glamorous position that for the last 35 years we've saved a lot of money. We haven't borrowed any money from a bank.
Yeah.
For 25 years. So we're cash rich, we're not indebted.
Yeah, which is pretty crucial at a time like this. It's the guys who've got big debts that are...
Exactly. We've got spectacular staff, we've looked after them all through COVID. Look, make no mistake, it is tough. It's very, very, very tough in the suburbs. And look, I'm not going to have a record year in terms of profit, but we're going to go all right.
Yeah.
We'll go all right.
And I guess... You weigh up whether you're expanding now or whether you're just hunkering down till the...
A couple of things you put on hold until it gets better. Sometimes you spend a lot of money when it's tough because you know you're going to come out of it. Yeah. I just can't tell you whether it's going to be at the end of this year or next year, but... No,
that's right.
We'll come through it.
Yeah, the cycle will turn.
And the strongest will survive.
On that sort of broader economic stuff, if there was something that you could change in New Zealand to sort of improve their country's economy or all that sort of stuff, if we could make you Prime Minister for a day, is there something that you would want to see, put your focus on to change the
absolutely
the settings in New Zealand?
Yeah. I'd be looking at the education system.
Yeah.
I think the education system right now in this country is absolutely appalling.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk that it's kind of been let slide. So what would you like to see?
Look, I'd like to see just the return to basics.
Yeah.
I'd like to see for probably high school, beyond primary school, some focus on economics, on budgeting, on those sorts of things.
Yeah.
To teach kids life skills, and I just don't see that it's happening right now.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not an expert on the education system. My lad has gone through that now. He's 27, 28 years old, so he's been out of it for probably 7 or 8 years now. But everyone you talk to who has kids of that age, tell me that the system is just in ruins.
Yeah, and kids not really coming out with a sense of, like you say, the sense of financial literacy, isn't it, really, which... I mean, I guess you got almost a better start in that with like your dad and the money and all that. The value of a dollar is an important thing to learn quite early on, right?
Yeah, but even back then, I could tell my 7 times table. I understood the basics of mathematics. I knew how to write.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that a lot of kids these days are even getting that.
Yeah, yeah. And if someone hands you a note, you know what change to give them back.
Yeah. I don't think it's complicated, but it certainly needs some repair.
Yeah. So just to wrap up, what then? I know we talked about it being a tough economy, but do you still have plans and vision for Briscoe and Rebel Sport, the brands,
It's not over.
Yeah.
We've got some big plans coming up. We're looking to expand the business. We're looking to acquire or establish a bigger business. This business has a lot of capacity, a fabulous trading platform, and we don't think we're anywhere near the end of expansion yet.
That's great, Rod. We'll leave it there. Thanks for being on Money Talks.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Money Talks. If you want to get in touch, drop me a line at liam.dan@nzme.co.nz. And you can read more from me at nzherald.co.nz. Thanks to my producer, Ethan Sills, and sound engineer, Leanne McDonald. Follow Money Talks on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts, with new episodes available every Thursday.